Let's talk about men and women from an angle of financial responsibility and household chores. So, the question today is, are 50-50 relationships or marriages fair to women? And I know, if you have been a fan of women's rights movement, equal rights by men and women, feminism, then you would know for sure that this is a conversation that is at the top of the chain, because one of the ways that patriarchy has thrived or continues to thrive is because of women's low economic power. Patriarchy was built on the idea that men are supposed to go to work or be providers, while women are supposed to be housewives and take care of the runnings of the home. And so what this means is women and men are unequally yoked. And so when the idea for women's rights and feminism came up, it was the idea that, you know what, let's do this thing or create a system where men and women are able to contribute equally financially and also be able to split the household chores. Now, the key thing that is wrong with this ideology is that most societies in the world have not been able to achieve or attain equal pay. So there is the thing with, there are some roles that are more favorable for men because it requires physical strength, but then there are lots more roles that does not require physical strength. And even in those sort of roles, men and women are still not paid equally, because sometimes companies factor in things like maternity leave, things like, oh, she's on a menstrual period and so she's not going to give 100%. The whole general thing with women's biology and men's biology not being the same. There are some roles that women who are at the managerial level still get paid a little less than men who are their subordinates. I don't want to focus on that. What I want to draw out from that is, maybe we both work in the same roles, different companies, and my husband or my partner is earning 70 to 100,000, and I am working maybe in the same company or a different company, and I'm earning, half of that, or let's say 50,000 naira, for instance. The higher you get paid, the higher you're supposed to contribute because of the 50% mark. Besides the financial, there is the household chores, which, if you check every society, Australia, the US, the UK, even in Nigeria or Africa, it is not a hidden gem. It is not news that is hidden from everybody that women do more, even in households where the man and the woman have agreed on doing the 50-50 split, which monetary or financially, that is easier to calculate than how the home is run or how the household is being taken care of. Now, whilst the man and the woman put in both 8 to 10 hours at work, when they get back home, the woman still has to carry the higher percentage of the household chores. It is easier to calculate the finances and say, oh, I earn 50,000, I'm bringing 25,000. I earn 100,000, I'm bringing 50,000 naira. Whilst the man and the woman are putting in both 8 to 10 hours at work, they both get home and the woman, for some reason, still ends up doing most of the house chores. So tell me, is that fair? And so if you now say, because I do more household chores, and no matter how we try to do this thing, I end up taking higher responsibility in our children's care, higher responsibilities in the cooking, higher responsibilities in the caring and all that. And so maybe I should contribute 10% or nothing at all, while this man bring in 100% of the finances. What we have now done is we are going back to reinforce the idea of patriarchy, which is that men are supposed to provide financially and women are supposed to take care of the home. And what that has done is given the man more leverage to say, I bring the money, so why else would you expect me to do this XYZ things without much help from the man? And even when you do decide, oh, maybe I should bring 20%, which means that this is the man covering a higher financial responsibility, because no matter how you do it, his own 50% of his 100% in the household running will never be complete. When you do it like that, he still expects to be thanked or patted on the back that, oh, thank you for contributing this. Even in societies or situations where women earn a lot more than the man, what tends to happen is there is this entire performative act where women still feel very uneasy telling their husband to chip in their own 100% of the 50% as it concerns taking care of the children and the household runnings, because they don't want to be perceived as being too controlling or being, egotistical, or, oh, because you think you earn more than me now, you want to start controlling me. So however you look at it, whether the man is any more, the woman is any more, if they do decide to do financial compromise of the 50-50, the woman would definitely always keep to her end of the bargain of the finances. But you find that the men, we will never, put in their own 100% of the 50% of the household chores. So what do you do then? Why I think that the idea for women's rights or feminism is hinged on the possibility that we live in an ideal world. And quite frankly, between the both of us, we know that we don't live in an ideal world where there's equal pay and there are men out there who are bringing in their own 100% in the household runnings, right? And so, whilst we are thinking, yay, I have my financial power, this man cannot say that he's taking care of me alone, we are doing this for each other. I'm sorry to bust your bubble, but you're still getting the shorter end of the stick. And so it pains me now when I hear, oh, we have a 50-50% household. And sometimes women do it from a place of, I'm earning more, so maybe I should pay more, or you're both earning the same, maybe I should pay the same. I'm so sorry, it's never the same. And it's never the same because that man is never going to bring his own 100% as it concerns household chores. You are still going to be doing the bulk of the work, which, quote unquote, is unpaid labor. So, as somebody who has done a bit of cohabiting, I have said this on this YouTube, I think last year also, where I was talking about, the pros and cons of cohabiting. I had a roommate, a male roommate once. Then I cohabited with a man once. Now I'm going to give you a bit of what that looked like, right? And so you draw from it your conclusions, whatever you will. I had a roommate, and when we were roommates, he paid the rent, and I was supposed to sort of bring in my 50-50 for the feeding, which to the best of my ability, I was able to do. But this man, who we were not in a romantic relationship with, thought it wise that a way to receive his end of the bargain, because I couldn't pay rent, was to, have sex with me. Which I think is also what translates or happens in an imbalanced relationship where patriarchy is the order of the day. The man provides money and the woman takes care of the home. So what that means is you can't tell him do this or do that because it feels like, oh, I'm doing the bulk of this thing, so you should be at my beck and call, and I have a right to say no to taking the kids to school. Or he would feel somehow if you tell him, oh, I can't cook today, can you cook? And so there's already an unequal balance in that. And I remember vividly that after that experience, I told myself that I'm never going to be in a situation or put myself in a situation where I'm going to allow a man stand on top of me with sexual threats and, all of these threats, because I'm unable to balance, my own end of rent by bringing in my own 50%. That ended obviously on a very bad term. And so when I got into a relationship much later and we had to live together because of finances, I made sure that I brought 50% of the rent, 50% of feeding, anything I was going to partake in, I was bringing in my own share of the 50%. And I made sure that I stood my ground on not being short paid on, household chores. So things like, I made the food today, why are you not cooking the food tomorrow? Or I made the food, I'm doing the dishes and you're just lying there. Or you made the food, I didn't do the dishes, I'm just staying there. It was a problem at the beginning because whilst me and this man that I was in a relationship with, we were both, bringing in 50-50 of the rent, he expected me to cook more. I stood my ground on that. And, at the end of the day, he came to understand that, oh, no, this wasn't me just trying to be mean to him in that, oh, I know how to cook. Why am I not cooking so much? He doesn't know how to cook. I know how to cook, but I don't like to cook. And so whilst I'm contributing 50% of my finances, why should I be expected to make the food? But thankfully we were able to live amicably because he came to understand that this is what is important to me. I think about it sometimes, and I think about it from the angle of maybe when it's just you and your partner. It makes a lot of sense that one person isn't being short paid. Outside of, women's rights and, kicking patriarchy in the ass and all that, the thing about two people coming together is to make life easier, for each other. And so by making life easier, what that means is if one person is better at something than the other, then maybe that person should be the person doing it, but not in the sense that, oh, because I'm better at all the 10 things, I should be the one doing all those 10 things. Do you see how unfair and unequal that already is? Right? My advice to women, especially feminists, because there is a thing with, oh, I'm independent, I can take care of my bills and all that and all that. Yeah, you can take care of the bills, you can do all of that, but is this man taking care of the household chores as you? So I don't want us to get lost in the idea that I'm trying to kick patriarchy's ass, and at the end of the day, you are taking more burden. If you are just to, maybe this can work, but by the time the children starts to come, this is never going to be a fair deal for women, because you'll be required to do a lot more in the caregiving. You're required to do a lot more in, staying home and all that, whilst your husband would expect you to still bring your 50% off the bill. So again, whilst I'm talking about, what is attainable in an ideal world and what is, what our world, looks like from now till the end of eternity, I'm always ever going to be or agree that we should do 50-50. And 50-50 in that I'm not just doing the household chores alone. We can't be in the house together. I'm hungry, you're hungry, and you're like, oh, you're the woman, go to the kitchen and cook. That's never going to, fly with me. But these things will start to get dicey when children, starts coming into the mix. What will now need to happen is the man would now need to take maybe a lot more of the financial responsibilities whilst the woman is doing childbearing. So I believe that it's never going to be 50-50 on 50-50 that is measured on a straight scale, because the 50% I'm contributing here maybe is my own 30% of finances, and the 50% this man is contributing in the household chores, maybe if that would be his 20%, and so maybe that can fly. But at the end of the day, I will not be the one to come to your household to tell you how to run your home or what your 50% would or should look like. But I've seen stories of women who put to bed and they're on maternity leave and their husband still expects them to bring 50%. Whereas this woman is on maternity leave and she's, breastfeeding and taking care of the children and generally, doing a lot more household chores. So women, should you do 50-50? I don't know. I would say no. In all honesty, I would say no, because even as a feminist, I believe that 50-50 is never 50-50 for both men and women as it concerns everything, both emotionally, financially, and, physically, as with the household runnings and with the household chores. If you tell a man, I want to do 50-50, it pays him more than it pays you. And I know that what we are trying to achieve is an economic, power or economic balance for women. But at the end of the day, you have to decide. Are you standing your ground as I did in my relationship, where my 50-50 was my 50-50? That can fly. But now if you're with a person who his own 50-50 is only in finance, he comes through only in finances, my darling, you have put yourself in a box of resentment. I started to feel a bit of resentment, and resentment in that I was the one who was always available to cook, right? I was always available to cook because I couldn't stay hungry. So it now became this thing of, would I cook for myself alone and leave this person to go hungry? But 50-50 would make you look like a witch. It will make you look like the person who is not emotionally invested in your relationship, because again, men know how to play this card where they're like, oh, I'm so tired, whereas both of you are doing the same 8 to 9 to 5 and you are as tired as he is, but because you can't go hungry, you have to make food. And so when you are not making the food, will you exclude him from the food you're making? So what am I leaving you with today? Stop telling men that you're independent. Men already know that you are independent and you're self-sufficient, in that you can take care of yourself, you can handle your bills. But that is as a unit. as, individual units. But if you now come together as a unit, I don't think that 50% is going to pay you. However, you look at it. So yeah, I leave you with this. Never agree to do 50-50 with a man who you know 100% that he's never going to bring 50% in the household earnings. And again, I want us to be smart people. As you're thinking of women's economic power, also think of the idea that women are doing a lot more unpaid chores as it concerns 50-50. And also know that what 50-50 may look like right now may be different when kids start coming. And so you have to keep reevaluating and redefining what 50-50 looks like to you, what it would look like, not to make, you feel like you are the mercy of this man because he's bringing all the finances, or you are tiptoeing around this man because whilst you're bringing the bulk of the finances, you're also left to do the bulk of the chores because you don't want to be seen as a bitter feminist or a wicked witch. The key thing is to always remember that you're with a person because you love them, and so let that love appear in how you transact, because by the time you start to do all this calculations and all that, it begins to look like you're trying to make transactions, which may feel a bit somehow, especially for the person who is not doing the chores or who is not available to do the chores, because it will now look like, oh, why are you calculating this thing? How are you calculating this thing? Always remember that you love this person and you need to be kind to this person, and you need to be smart enough to understand that I love my wife, I love my partner, and for right now, this is what my partner needs. Whilst we are doing finances, let's also be thinking of what is attainable in our world, because we are not operating in an ideal world, like I said before. So yeah, this is the 2 cents that I have for you guys for today. I hope that we will be better partners and we will be supportive, both in finances and both in the household chores. One gender is not meant to do one thing, while the other is meant to do the other thing. But if you think that that's what works for you, good and fine. But I'm speaking specifically to feminists and people who support women's rights. That 50-50 is not meant to create what seems like a transaction. Is meant to help the both of you attain, a stability where one person is not feeling like they are doing one bulk of the duty to the other. The idea is to come to an agreement or stability that makes it feel easier for either party to breathe. So let me know what you thought about this in the comment section. If you're a married woman and this is already happening in your home, again, let me know how you have been able to find that balance. If you're a man and you're with a woman who you're doing 50-50 with, and you know in your heart that in terms of household chores, she is doing a lot more than you, then you are not doing so well, sir. You're not doing so well. I'm not going to call you a wicked person, which that is what I think you are. But I think that we should, let love lead, and, just remember that we love this person in our dealings. Let us remember that we love this person and we care about them, and we are in each other's lives to make our lives easier and to make us feel, feel like we are with our own person, not with somebody we think he or she is lording over us, or he or she is cheating us out, because that was exactly how I felt about my relationship at the time. I was contributing equal rent and I alone was taking care of, oh, this thing is fault, let me get to fix it. This thing needs to do this, let me get to fix it. Whereas this man was just feeling like he was breezing in and out of a hotel. So let us be kinder to each other, especially because you're in a relationship. You're not in a business transaction. And so I hope that you have a beautiful conversation with your partners. I hope that if you're already, in this sort of relationship that is, unequally balanced, I wish you well in how you communicate. And I think that maybe both of you should always learn to be open to your communication and how you feel at different points in your time, as that is what is going to help. Yeah, but that's all I have for you guys. See you in my next video, hopefully next week. Bye bye.